let's move on to another Bachelor in Paradise couple from season 7. Actually, we have Kenny and Mari who are flourishing right now since their season. They recently went on a cruise to celebrate Mari's birthday and decided to get matching tattoos in honor of them meeting on the sands of paradise. They got these two little palm trees. Kenny's, I think, was on his neck, and I believe, yes, and Mari's was on her little bum. Super cute. I love Kenny and Mari. What were you a fan of them
Mhm.
on their season? Like, what were your thoughts on Kenny and Mari's season? Because that was what 2 seasons ago.
Yeah. I liked them. I feel like, Kenny and Mari are the classic example of the network not making them that bachelor royalty, which is really annoying because they have a great
Mm,
relationship. They're still together 2 years later. They're getting matching
yep,
tattoos. They're getting married this year. So it's like, why not
yep.
highlight, your success stories? So I don't really
Mhm.
understand that. I wish we kind of saw more of them, whether
It's true.
even if it's like them popping in at the beach or being present at after the final rose. I just feel like they kind of always get
Yeah,
overlooked.
that's so true. They really do get overlooked. I think the last time we saw them amidst the franchise was they were just in attendance at one of the finales. I can't remember if it was the BI if it was the last season of BIP finale, but they were just there in the audience, and that was really it. They didn't speak, they didn't.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's weird, and I know that, um, in last season, they ended up of Bachelor in Paradise, they ended up cutting some footage of, I think, was it Clayton and Susie that made an appearance? Somebody made an appearance, and they ended
Oh,
up cutting
yeah.
it, and I think it was just because they broke up, and I'm like what you said, we have a really rock solid success story in Kenny and Mari. Why are they not being used? It's really odd. I don't get it because I loved them. I think they had such a interesting story on their
Mhm.
season. And I mean, they went through. We were talking about hurdles, right? Like when it comes to the Abigails and Noahs of the world and stuff like that. But they went through a huge hurdle of, he got with Demi and they had a fight and
Mhm.
she threw the cake in the fire and they ended up getting back together and getting engaged anyway. Like they went through a whole pretty dramatic storyline. So, it's interesting. In comparison, to Brandon and Serene, let's just go ahead and compare the two. What do you think is the difference, like, between a success story like Kenny and Mari and Bachelor Nation making it work versus the demise of Brandon and Serene?
Maybe it is the fact that they are a little bit farther away from the scrutiny of the public eye. I mean, like we said, we really
Mm,
put Brandon and Serene on this really, really high pedestal, right? Where we don't get to
yeah.
see what goes on behind closed doors, and we don't know,
Mm,
are they this picture perfect couple that we have made them out to be? And even Brandon said that in his caption, like, we're trying to go through some things
yeah.
privately while also being in the public eye, and it's really difficult. We sit here and we're like, oh, why isn't Mari and Kenny out there? And it's like, well, maybe that's what they
Mhm,
wanted to do to ensure that they had
mhm.
the healthiest path for their relationship, and that's maybe how
Yeah.
they got to where they are today.
That's a really, really good point. I think when we see Bachelor Nation couples kind of leave be not just yeah, we're putting them for sure under like Brandon and Serene, we're putting them for sure under this microscope. But I think even the fact that they lived in San Diego, but Kenny and Mari live in Chicago, like they're kind of away from it.
Mhm.
You're out of that like Hollywood space a little bit. You get that separation of the two and kind of are able to just breathe and focus on your relationship and not get caught up, I guess. Um,
Mhm.
but oh, we've got a comment actually. Let's go ahead and read it. Dabu8701 says, I'm always pessimistic when two people that meet on day one are immediately all in on each other and don't date anyone else. How can you be sure that quick? A bit fairy tale. What are your thoughts on that, Morgan?
I don't really disagree. I would say it's not my biggest red flag. If I'm going to be completely honest, my biggest red flag when it comes to when it came to Brandon, a lot of people have been throwing out the
Mhm.
love bomber, phrase. I don't think Brandon's a love
Mhm.
bomber because I don't think he's like manipulative in his approach, but I do think that he
Right.
is a hopeless romantic. And sometimes that can play tricks on you a little bit. Like we saw Brandon,
Mhm.
like I
Mhm.
said, fall head over heels in love with Michelle. Was devastated at the end of
Yeah.
that season, right? To then turn around and very quickly also fall head over heels in love with Serene. And that's not to downplay his
Mhm.
emotions whatsoever. I mean, I still
Sure.
believe that he had two strong connections, and maybe those were his two loves of his life, right? But I also just think,
Sure.
um, kind of alluding to what you were talking about earlier when they were on Taylor Lautner's podcast, like you
Mhm.
can, if you have these really, really high emotions of, falling head over heels in love, you probably can experience the other end of that spectrum as well.
Mm.
And, you have these
Wow.
high highs and you have these low lows, and you might not know how to
Yeah.
navigate them in a new relationship in the public eye.
Yes, great point. I never thought of it that way. I think that's very true. We've seen Brandon. He wears his heart on his sleeve. He's a
Mhm.
very emotional guy, and it's great. It's great, but
Mhm.
yeah, I can definitely see somebody, who loves that hard and is that passionate. Um, things can flip. And not that he's unstable or anything like that, but yeah, it can maybe be intense on the other end too. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, great point. And I think just going back to Kenny and Mari, they're both really like I think they're old. Well, Kenny's older, right?
Mhm.
Kenny's older. Mari's about the same age as Brandon and Serene, but she always gave this like old soul spirit, and
Mhm.
they've always talked about being, they just want a very quiet life. They're homebodies. They just want to focus on doing their little thing, living their little life with their dogs and just being with their family. And I think, their energies are kind of just like, we're not we're chilling. We're really just
Yeah.
chilling, and we're not we're not doing too much. We're just focusing on each other. Um and they seem to just be really healthy mentally, and yeah, they're doing great. I think like what we were saying earlier, they deserve more credit than what they get. They deserve a little bit more shine than what they get all the time. But also, like what you said, probably it's a good thing that they're not
Yeah.
getting as much attention, because I think they're able to, again, focus on each other and not get caught up in all the mess that can be Bachelor Nation. Um,
True.
so again, kudos to them. I can't wait to see more about the wedding. Like we were saying, they're getting married later this year. So I'm excited to see the photos at least. I know they're not gonna go on TV because, like we said, stay out of the just do your thing separately,
Yep.
privately. So that should be really cute.